All right, construction champions, it's your host, Ron Nussbaum, and we're here for another amazing episode of Construction Champions Podcast, where we're burning the house down twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays. I almost said Tuesdays. Does that mean I should have an episode on Tuesdays? I guess we might find out. You never know. But I am fired up. As always, I'm excited for our guest today. Kevin, it is great to have you here.
Thanks, Ron. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive with that intro.
You know what? I believe in having energy and setting the bar. That's what the construction industry deserves. That's what
Yeah,
it deserves out of me. Doing these podcasts fire me up. So it's like, I love this because we're going to drop some great knowledge. It's going to affect people's lives and businesses. And it just fires me up, man.
as it should. I mean, like it's your passion, and yeah, I was looking into some of the stuff you're doing, and I'm like, it's a perfect niche. So, like, I'm glad that we could share some of what I do and fit it into what you do.
Awesome, man. Well, why don't you tell all the construction champions out there, introduce yourself, tell them what excites you and what got, why are we here having this conversation today? What led to this, man? So introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Kevin Britz. I'm the CEO of Leadership by Design, and what excites me is human behavior. I've been fascinated with this process and with human behavior ever since I was a child, and I remember wanting to potentially become a psychologist, and then realized that 12 years of studying was just not something I was keen on doing. So I was like, okay, what alternative options are there? So I've gone the alternative route and done a lot of NLP, hypnotherapy, timeline therapy, team and business, and Enneagram stuff. So, and I currently today, that's what I do. I work with corporates, and we design custom leadership and change management strategies for individuals and organizations to really just focus on what those changes are for the future of work.
Awesome. I love it because not every organization is the same, but we can
Yeah.
tend to treat it the same when we start talking about leadership and the systems and what needs to be put in place because that's just what's out there. And having that custom plan, I think is very important. So I'm ready to dive in. I'm going to ask you the $1 million question, and that
Yeah.
is what makes a construction champion?
Well, yeah. I'm going to go back to my passions, and I think what makes a construction champion is the evolution of leadership, right? So, as leaders, as business owners, as people who lead people, we tend to kind of do what we've always done, or we kind of tend to do what our parents did, or our predecessors did, and essentially what we know from a very logical stance, but also from evidence around our generations that are showing up in the workforce. So our millennials, our Gen Zers, like we know that the evolution of leadership is a really important conversation,
Hmm.
and throughout all business. And if we don't pay attention to it, we're going to be left caught, kind of going, why is this not working? Why am I butting heads with my environment or the guys working on the construction site? And you've got to consider that as a leader, as much as we're heading into crazy times and lots of evolving times, part of that is what am I doing as a leader? How am I showing up? And what's different about how I can show up?
I love it because this is one of my favorite subjects because I'm a continue I believe in continuous growth, just continuing to get better. And that's what you're talking about at the leadership level is like how are we progressing? And within the construction industry, this can be, a subject that doesn't get touched on enough because we feel like, we're here, either we're running a company, but what is like that next level? We don't ever necessarily treat it like it's just a business and I need to evolve as the business grows in order for the business to grow. So I'm excited to dive into that and, get your feedback on how we can better evolve as an industry, as leaders, from a company to running what I consider to be a business.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to use a practical example because, it's very relatable and it's, globally relatable. And we look at COVID. So COVID happened. And for those who own businesses like we both do, when COVID happened, a large part of what happened, and we saw it in real time happening, was people losing businesses. But also, what was also interesting about that moment that we were having in the history of our lives was our there was a very obvious behavioral change that we had to go through. And from a behavioral perspective, I'm always curious of going, so I mean, that's really interesting. So why did that happen, and how amazing was it that we adapted, we just found ways to adapt, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I went on the hunt and kind of looked at, okay, so if we could make those changes so dramatically, and we knew that something like the pandemic would throw us into this unsure kind of position where nothing was guaranteed, what would we do, right? And I started researching and looking at what does that mean for us as business owners, as leaders, as the workforce, and what should we be paying attention to? And I came across some work from a professor that did a lot of research around the future of work and the skills that we would need. And what was interesting about the skills, he calls it the work industry neutral growth skills. So the acronym for that being the wings. He said, what we need for the future of work is we need wings, right? And so I was like, okay, well, let's investigate this and let's unpack this more thoroughly. And what's amazing about this is what we do learn about the evolution of leadership and the future of work is with these 5 core critical primary skills, you can solve any problem in a work environment and in leadership, right? And the first one that he discovered that was really being spoken about the most in most publications was the first one was critical thinking. So when you look at critical thinking, you kind of go, okay, cool. When my business, when a pandemic hits, when there's so much change and so much volatility, and I'm experiencing at that level, what does that mean? And how am I critically thinking around the challenges that are being posed? So it becomes an actual skill that you need. You can't just rely on hopefully things are going to turn out the way things should. You have to sit down and kind of be critical thinking about it and pose questions and opportunities and different thought processes to kind of go, well, we're here now, what does that mean for the evolution of how our business plays out and how our business performs? And the second one he speaks about is creativity, coming up. And when you say creativity, lots of people think of artistry or music or that type of side of creativity. But creativity in itself is creating something, right? So whether that be a process, whether that be a new product, whether that be a new approach to your business, you need creativity to come up with whatever that looks like for your business. We also looked at social intelligence and kind of understanding that because we are in an environment, we're in a world where those things are being, or at least devices are pulling us apart to a large degree. Part of what we can't go without is social intelligence. And being social beings, we need people to make business happen. That's the bottom line, right? The last two, he speaks about self-management. Do you have the skill to manage yourself, to manage how you show up in your energy, in your performance, in your output, and how do you manage that productively so that it impacts and overflows into your business? And the last one, just as important, he points out attention management, not time management, because what we do know is, as human beings, when we tap into a sense of flow, something that we are passionate about, with what we give attention is so much more easier for us to accomplish than when we have to time manage it, right? And usually, because you're giving yourself, you're giving a certain topic attention specifically, the construct of time is removed from that. And then you can also go, okay, cool. What is priority? What needs to get done? What's, what can happen tomorrow? What can I delegate and what can I defer? And what else? What is just taking up too much time? The moment you look at attention and the importance of attention in your business as a leader, it shifts how you show up in your own space, right? So
Mm-hmm.
those five core critical skills are what I've actually written a book about, and the book in itself is called "The Future of Work is Human," and it's available on Amazon. So I'll share that link with you guys, and throughout the book we just use that sort of model to kind of look at, so what does critical thinking look like? What is ideas of creativity? What are ideas around self management? And we unpack that to a degree to kind of give you more insight of, well, let's use this model and see how it can influence and help you evolve into a far better constructive human for the future.
Mm. I love it. I think your first 2 points there is where the construction industry thrives. We're really critical thinkers. Like that's one of
Yeah.
our strengths, and we're very creative. Like those two things are what cause a lot of projects to get completion completed. But at the same time, they can start to become a hindrance because I think the first two that you speak about can overshadow the other three within the construction industry just because we have to be creative. We have to be critical thinkers. We have to be creative for any of the projects or stuff just won't get done. And because we have to be so forefront with that, those other three, especially the social intelligence part, that is a growing trend within construction because we do have to be better communicators. We have to be better leaders. We have to understand people better. That was a defining moment where I started to realize like it's just about being the best Ron and then understanding everybody else so I can communicate with them instead of vice versa, where it used to be like, well, everybody should just communicate with me, and however I communicate's how it should be. Well, that's bullshit. That don't work. People leave because of
Yeah.
that. You have to start to understand that this is how I communicate, but this is how that person communicates. And as the leaders, we have to be the ones to grow and adapt and change our styles as we grow our businesses.
Yeah, what's interesting is, and my brother, he's in the construction industry, so I know a little bit about the construction industry. And there's very often you find that social intelligence kind of gets knocked out the door because just do what I'm telling you to do because that's the right way to do it. And that's I've done this for 25 years. You kind of go like, okay, that's cool, but at the when you really want to grow your company and you really want to level up on what the future of your work and your work environment looks like, part and parcel of that is emotional regulation, right? And if I'm not self-managing my emotions and kind of going, okay, the way I'm speaking to people is not helping me get to where I want to go,
Mm-hmm.
plain and simply, maybe I should tweak that response. Maybe I should go for a walk around the block when I'm having a heated moment. But essentially, what we're finding, and specifically with the Gen Zers, the millennials, that age group, they're very um, they're very forceful, but quietly forceful, kind of going, like, I don't want to work for you if you can't speak properly to me. I don't want to work for you if you don't value what I bring to this environment. I don't want to work with you if you don't understand that my life isn't just all about work, but I actually have a life, and when we grew up, 20, 30 years ago, now, there was a certain way that leaders showed up. And you kind of like, okay, well, that's how a leader shows up. That's how your father showed up. That's how your boss shows up, right? And you kind of go, okay, we're not living in those times anymore. And that requires an evolution of leadership. So it really gets you to start looking at, well, how can you be better at being a leader in your environment?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Is like I think the construction you always hear like people is like right now, the crunch is people. Well, I like to say 13 years ago when I started in construction, we were short on people. So that's always been an issue. But right now, we're at a point where leaders have to evolve if they haven't in order to fix the problem. Like that's going to be one of the only ways we fix this because as people transition out of like what I see is like people are going to transition out of typical like not necessarily white collar job, but like they went to college or something and they have another job. Like they're doing that, and then they start to understand that hey, the trades, construction, like there, I could make a career over there. They're going to transition, and it's not like as they transition, it can't be like what you said, where it's like do this my way, do like unless you just want to burn that when you could take somebody that has a great understanding of a lot of things and teach them about construction and it would be such an asset to your business because you get this outside perspective that allows you to be able to grow faster, but we have to come in as better listeners, we have to come in as better communicators and understand that like I said, one of the biggest breakthroughs I ever had when I was managing a staff was to understand that because Ron thinks this is how we should communicate, it's probably the wrong way. Like you should communicate how people, I'm a high D personality, so I think everybody should just understand me. Like I'm the bar, this is where it should be at. But as soon as I realized like that's not the case, and most people are not like me, and it's my job to learn to communicate effectively with them, that's when you start getting results and building these relationships and doing the stuff that you're talking about being able to do.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things, Ron, that like I just want to add to one of the things that we've added to our to the website actually is a leadership philosophy, and I want to encourage your listeners to kind of look at their own leadership style and kind of look at, do you have a philosophy, and kind of go, what is that philosophy? And on the website, I created what our leadership philosophy is, and you know what we do is we consider sovereignty and agency, and sovereignty refers to self governance and autonomy, and agency refers to the capacity to act independently and make choices, right? And whenever we work with leaders and business owners, you kind of go, so, well, what is your philosophy on leadership? And most 98% of the time people are like, well, what the hell is that, right? We just get on with it. And at the end of the day, I want to encourage people to kind of think of that and kind of go at, if we look at what leadership as a skill is, essentially leaders create leaders. Because if you as a leader create a bunch of leaders who work underneath you and in your environment, that means you just have to create a really great vision for them to work towards. And you have a bunch of leaders who are showing up, who have the sovereignty and agency to act out in accordance to their own leadership and do that and show up for your business in the most constructive way. But it's urging you to kind of uh, to elicit that from them and kind of go, I want to give you the autonomy so that you can make decisions. I want to show you that you have choices and you're going to make the best choice for the project. So you tell me what we need to do here, and with through your guidance and creating a better leader out of them and helping them evolve, helping them self-manage and helping them to be creative and critically think and attention manage all of these components. When you start having all of these components added to leadership, you're going to have a great team, within 6 months. You have a bunch of leaders working in your environment.
Yeah, I love that because it sounds like you're talking about putting like boundaries on yourself for leadership, like kind of like a basketball court has an out of bounds. So you understand like this is how we lead. Like we don't go outside on out of bounds here. Like this is how we play the game from a leadership perspective. I love that because then that is scalable. It's then like as you're growing leaders, you give them the same. Like, when your leadership style or how you are should have some boundaries to it. So you don't go one way, too far one way or too far the other way. you just stay right there in your sweet spot, that flow that you talked about earlier. You get in that flow of your leadership and you're not jumping around, and it can be really magical.
Absolutely, and that's exactly the point. Because when you have created a sound, uh, well-defined approach to how we do things in this environment, everyone's on the same place. And within those boundaries that you've created, people might, sometimes you might be pushing them, out of the comfort zone, and some might feel a bit pressurized by that. But when it's clearly defined like that, it puts people at a bit of ease, because they kind of know, okay, cool, I know this is how Ron does things, right? And uh, this is where I'm able to move in the constraints of this. And by creating something that they can work towards, it also enables them to have more freedom. But when you don't vocalize that, or you don't give them any specificity or idea of, how do I do that,
Mm.
they'll kind of just do what they do because they think this is how we do things, right? And that's not the best approach to leadership and running a business.
And you use one of my favorite terms, which is this is how we do it. I tell guys all the time, like you have to figure out how you do it across the
Yeah,
board. And then those are the standards. Like that's how you write your SOPs. That's how all that stuff comes about, is because it's how you do it. Like this is how we do it here. And then it's so clear, everybody understands it. It makes it easy for people to look at it and say, do I want to be on that bus or not? Do I
yeah,
have alignment with that or not? But too often, no one has any idea how we do it here. And when you ask that question, you get well, different projects, different things, different guys, different things. And that creates inconsistencies, which then creates all this ebb and flow that guys are like, I don't like, I want to rip my hair out. Well, if you just have, this is how we do it here, and
yeah,
every time you run into something and you're like, this is just how we do it here. And then you write that down and that becomes part of your business. Like that is where magic starts to happen. And
yeah,
people, they can sell, it's how you bring in the better talent. It's how people self-select out because they realize, well, this is how they do it here, but I don't do it that way. I don't want to do it. Like that's way out of my comfort zone on what I want to be. Like if it's wearing polos, jeans, and work boots, and somebody wants to wear flip-flops and a tank top, and they're never going to wear a polo, they immediately know that's not the place for me. So
yeah.
you don't even have to go through that selection process just because you're like, this is how we do it here.
And that's to the point. That's why everyone's philosophy to their business, to their leadership, to how the business occurs and how it happens and how you do business is going to be very specific to that business. But that's the point, right? The point is, when it's well defined and you do know that, then the next step to that is, okay, cool, what is the evolution of leadership for me as the leader of this business?
Hmm.
And that's why it's so important to have those two thought processes really hand in hand, because that's going to help encourage and develop the future of work for so many of us running businesses.
Awesome, man. I love it. I love what you're doing. It can have a great impact on the construction industry. And
Thank you.
thank you for being on the show today.
Absolutely. I want to just leave your listeners with. I'll send you the link. It's 30 questions to evaluate your leadership, and it's a free downloadable PDF that you can get off the website. But I'll send it to you. So go and check it out, because it really gets you to really start critically thinking around your own leadership for yourself.
Yeah, that'll be I'll put that in the show notes. And then for anybody, if they wanted to follow you, talk to you, what's the best ways for them to do that?
Yeah, so the easiest would be, I will send you a link for the book as well. The book is available on Amazon, so I'll send
Okay.
that link for you. And the quickest, easiest way to is just to type in my name. Usually, I just all over Google, so you can just Kevin Britz, or you can just check out leadershipbydesign.co.
I love that. All over Google. I get people all the time that they're like, I'm all over LinkedIn or I'm all over Instagram or I'm all over Facebook. Well, Kevin's dominating the web here. He is all over Google. I absolutely love that.
Fantastic, Ron. Thank you. I really appreciate being on the show and just sharing some insights.
Yeah, awesome. We appreciated it. And once again, thank you for being on the show today.
Not a problem.
All
Chat
right,
soon. Cheers.
construction. All right, construction champions. Another episode where we dove in to some leadership principles here. And not just principles, like how are you showing up and being the best leader? And I think we can say, not we, what I hear is like, well, I'm not leading anybody, so I don't need to be a leader. Like I'm just up and growing. I maybe one day, but like this is when you have to start putting in the reps and understanding who you are as a person, so you can become the best leader you possibly can be. Because when employees start showing up, that is not the time to start saying, I think I need to start being like learn about leadership. Like, let's start being proactive about this. I think the construction industry is we are inherently great leaders just because of how our personalities are and who we are. But at the same time, there's a lot of detrimental characteristics that we get as well. I know this just because of myself and being around the industry for 13, 14, however many years it is at this point in time. We just need to do better and understand that and start to put in some of these boundaries that we understand. And I know a lot of times we've already touched on it, is like, this is how we do it here. That can go for your leadership as well. Like, this is just how we lead here. Like, this is how I lead. As a project manager, I expect you to lead and stay within these boundaries, so you don't have people going fall over here or fall over there, and then you're wondering what's going on. Well, if you don't give people boundaries, I'm going to tell you they're going to be all over the place. That's just how it works. So it's up to you to be able to create those boundaries, what that looks like, how we do it here, and have a clear understanding of that for yourself and then for the future leaders you develop. And that all starts today. So, Construction Champions, make sure you go join our Construction Champions Mastermind group on Facebook. Go to our website, check out all of our great sponsors that keep this show a rocking and a rolling. And until next time, be the champion you were meant to be. Hey, construction champions. It's your host, Ron Nussbaum here. And I want to talk to you about how you can automate all of your marketing. We've had so many people on here talk about getting the systems in place. Well, we have partnered with Build 12 and Construction Champions podcast. Les O'Hara, the founder, what really excites me is his 30 years in the industry. And now he's built a system to be able to nurture your leads and continue to utilize that. I personally use the system myself. Build 12 is absolutely amazing. There's a lot of value in there, and it's a way to start getting away from Angie's List and all of that kind of stuff and start actually creating your own leads every day and have a system for them. So go on our website, check out the show notes, go check out Build 12 and what it can do for the front end of your business today. It's absolutely amazing. I highly recommend going and meeting with Les and his son, Devin, and talking to him about what they built for their own business, so the rest of the industry can take benefit from that. Here on Construction Champions, we're all about helping each other out. And what is better than contractors helping contractors? I say nothing. So let's go take this to the next level. Go check out Build 12. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Les or his son, Devin. We're here to help. We want to continue to grow the industry.